I've been following what you're doing because I think there aren't enough spaces to support artists in the way that you do that specifically. And the fact that you bring in, I should say, part of the reason why I think you kind of stand out in that space is because you also bring your own experience, right? Like I've noticed that you never given advice that was not tried and tested.
Yes, very true. And, and I go through the gamut of everything. So,
For sure. Yeah, I've noticed that from like, how do you think about talking to curators to how do you monetize your work and how do you do it in a way that doesn't compromise what you want to say? So maybe we can start with talking about you and the work that you're doing, and how did you end up wanting to help other artists in this way?
oh, good question. And yeah, and it is great to be here with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Um, you know, I feel like somebody had asked me that before, and um I was trying to think what was my answer. No, I've always been like an educator, a teacher. And, and I've thought about it, and my family is full of teachers. So, my aunts or my great aunts and uncles and cousins and my sister-in-law, and, so I think it's kind of just ingrained, somewhere in there, the educator. Um, I got it when I was going for my bachelor's degree. I decided to get it in art history because I didn't want to be a starving artist. So that was like,
Why? Why not? That sounds like so much fun, though.
I know. So, and I thought teaching, would be the way to go. And so I got my bachelor's in art history, and then I was going for my master's in art history. And I was lucky enough at the time to teach at Antelope Valley College and Pasadena City College. And while I was working on my master's degree, and I loved it. I mean, I started off being very nervous about it, but I loved it. And then I had to stop teaching because I didn't quite have my master's degree yet. And Antelope Valley was going through accreditation and, all the rules and guidelines and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Um, but then I graduated, or actually what happened was I transferred from art history to studio art. I had 2 more years of student loans left.
Oh, more fun times.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to focus on my own art. So I was going to Cal State Northridge at the time, working with Samantha Fields and Betty Brown and Samantha Fields. And so I transferred to studio art. And so yeah, I finished my degree, in studio art. So, but I had that education background, and even a leadership background. I was in the Art History Student Association and the president of that. I was in the Painting Guild and I became the president of that. I, after I graduated, I started a critique group with artists that I went to school with because we missed the group. And then I started like an artist support group of my friends, and, because we missed like that, the just the getting together at school. We missed that atmosphere. And then I think I moved to the brewery a couple years after I graduated, or like a year after I graduated. And I just got involved in things.
Can you say a word about, if someone's watching that doesn't know what the brewery is, what makes it stand out in the local LA landscape? Can you tell us a little bit about the brewery?
Yeah, yeah. It's an artist complex. It's made up of 23 buildings on 16 acres. That are some of the building I live in is 120 years old or plus. It has this the smokestack building is like was the very first uh what is it, steam, oh my gosh, the steam electrical place on the West Coast. I just told somebody this the other day, and of course now it's like totally steam powered electrical plant or something like that. It's the West Coast. And it's like 130 or 40 years old. And then of
Which,
course,
like in LA terms, is like millennia. I think you don't get
exactly.
buildings that are older than maybe 50 years. That is like very unique in and of itself.
Exactly. I so a family bought the brewery and bought the complex in 1980. And the husband, Whitey, was going to turn it into like he just wanted it for the scrap metal, but his wife was into art. So they turned it into, an artist community. And it was very raw and edgy early on, and then, grew. And there's over 500 creatives that live and or work here. And so I have a live workspace here. Have a gallery space that I rent. I rent out space to other artists. And it's just a great community. I mean, I have felt very safe here during the pandemic as a single woman. Um, I have tons of friends, and and it's right in the heart of like, I mean, kind of the heart of LA. I could jump on the freeway and be anywhere. So that's the great
Yeah,
thing. So
for sure.
and actually I came here because a teacher that I took painting classes with, Cynthia Minette, taught at Antelope Valley College, and she lives here. And she told us about the art walk, and this was in 1998. And so I came, because I was intrigued. And of course, that first visit, I wanted to move here. I mean, it was like I was so inspired. And so I went home and I'm like, there was no way I could afford it. No way at all. And 13 years later, I like answered a call on Craigslist. Somebody was looking for a roommate. And so I was able to get in as a roommate. And then a couple of years after that, I got my own place here. So
Now you're slowly taking over one step at a time. There is something though that comes up in everything that you're saying that I want to name because I think it also plays into your practice in different ways. So we talked about the educational component, kind of wanting to work with others to help them develop their own path. But there's also something to be said about the artist community in LA, and how it inspires and informs people work. Can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Community for me, has always been an important thing. In 2006, I joined Second Life, which is an online virtual world. And that's what my master's thesis was on. And that kind of is what started me. Well, and I don't want to say it started me because I was in the Art History Student Association before that. But I was able to like bring real world experience there. And like I chaired a muscular dystrophy association fundraiser of art. I ran galleries in there. I brought artists in there, so I started doing all that virtually and then brought it, to the real world. And and I don't know if it's just I felt alone a lot of my life. And so I've wanted to surround myself by like-minded people, by people that, that get it, by especially artists who I can relate to. And so I've just done that my entire life, and it's attracted, more artists. And because of, what I do as like an educator and um organizer and, curator and mentor, I'm able to help a lot of artists. And there are so many artists out there you know who don't know how to share posts on Facebook, who don't know how to, search for emails in their inbox, who don't know, I mean, little things like that I take for granted because I'm not a techie or anything. But I'm pretty good at it. And so I realized, and this is artists are inventive. I mean, that's how we're going to survive everything we're going through right now is like, yes, is like we hustle, we're inventive, we know how to pivot. And so because of that, I've been able to kind of shape and lead my path and also bring resources. Community is all about resources.
Resources.
Because it's like, I know one thing, but I don't know this, but I know somebody else who knows this. And it's like, we all like, support each other. And if we don't have that, what do we have? And I
Yeah.
feel like bringing that from, I want to say real life into the art world, but that's, bringing it like into our art communities is so important.
Yeah, and there's something about the way that the scene in LA constantly rebuilds itself and brings out new voices that tend to be fascinating and kind of transforming the art world. Almost every decade, I think we have an example of that. There is such a strong DIY spirit here.
Yeah.
That has to do with a lot of things, whether those are, the unique topography of this place and how it feels so strange in the best possible way when you move here for the first time and the horizon kind of opens up in the way that it does above the highway. Or is it because that it is so big, so artist communities might feel isolated? But there's such a resilience I've noticed
Yes.
in my years living here to local artist communities and the way they come together to overcome challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah. I and I think that's people ask me like why is because I always talk about how LA is one of the centers of the art world and we're
Mhm.
kind of a different center in a way. We're not like Paris or Berlin or places like that, but I think, it because we're so spread out, which is part of it, like you said, but I think it is the resilience and the DIY aspect. It's amazing. I watch, artists like Max Presnell who does Nomad and Trist and Mass Attack and brings artists together. And I'm totally inspired by art, by people like that, by artists like that. Galia, Blue Ridge.
Galilin, yes.
Yep. And seeing the different organizations, out there like Clock Shop and Lace and, it's like these aren't the blue chip galleries. They're like they're there for artists. And that's what's important to me. I mean, I think, studying art history, of course, I think it's important to know what's going on in the art world. But it's like like I've been talking to so many people lately, history is written by the victors. And it's like, okay, wait, we need to change that. And that means like getting away from, I mean, as we know, how we're just discovering so many women artists because they weren't written about. And it's like, so I wanted to be part of that conversation. That's why I started Art and Cake by drawing attention to artists who are not written about, who are not noticed, who, giving shows to them, giving opportunities to them. And so that's the community that I want to form. And that's, I'm attracted to others who do those like DIY art supportive type communities.
Absolutely. So maybe we can talk about some of the challenges that you see that artists face now beyond the scope of LA and what happens here. Talk to us about, given your experience, some of the challenges that you're seeing around.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is money. It's there's a lot of artists I know a lot of artists who are single, men and women, and who are struggling for work, whatever that looks like to them. Um, and they're having a hard time selling. And they may want gallery representation, but galleries are closing now left and right.
Hmm.
People are kind of keeping their wallets close. They're not spending as much money.
Yes.
And so, I know a couple of artists who are going back to day jobs. And, they may have had something before, but it's like now they have to focus on money, where it's like, I mean, not that we shouldn't have to, but it's like now their art isn't their priority because they have to feed themselves and pay rent. And so
Absolutely.
I know, like, yeah, money is a huge thing. Um, I know, like, and this is what I find is, and like, every time I hear artists talking about something that they need, I'm like, okay, how can we help them? I started LA Art Rideshare on Facebook, a Facebook group. And it was because there were so many like older artists or disabled artists or, artists who can't drive at night, who would love to go to openings, would love to go to shows and events, but can't drive. And so, I started the group so people can say, hey, I live at the brewery. I'm going here. Does anybody want to ride with me? They can meet here. Same thing with transporting art. It's like, we always need to take art to shows, especially depending on how often you're in shows. You're doing that all the time.
All the time.
And so, especially if it's a group show, if you know other artists who are in the show, it's like, why doesn't somebody coordinate taking the work and then somebody else can pick it up? And so I wanted to form that group to help in those ways. Um, you know, I, I mean, not that that's a huge concern for artists, but it was one that, one of the reasons I started the LA Art Riot Chair is because that's what I had noticed.
Yeah.
I think, and artists, in fact, are my next community conversation. I have free Zoom community conversation on Tuesdays. And the theme, and each time is themed, and it kind of comes up based on what the artists talk about or what we all talk about the week before. And somebody brought up just the overwhelm of being an artist. And I know that is huge. It's like, okay, trying to sell your work, posting on social media, updating your website, updating Artwork Archive, you know, going to openings, dropping off work, working a day job. It's like,
It's it's uh
yeah,
it's a it's a unique career in the sense that this is both your identity and your profession, right?
yeah,
When you're thinking about yourself as an artist, you need to think about yourself as a business.
yeah,
But on the same token, it is also who you are. So how do you avoid commercializing your voice in a way that does not feel true or authentic to your work while still being able to grow the business to make sure that you can sustain yourself? Not to mention the fact that being an artist, because it is a form of identity, you don't retire. There's no like, I have not met one artist in my life that was like, you know what? That's it, 77. I'm done. I'm gonna lie on a beach. That's it. No.
exactly.
It's the long haul. So how do you maintain your energies and maintain growth and momentum? That is overwhelming. Just by describing it, I got overwhelmed. I don't know about you.
Prozac helps.
That will be the title for this episode. Prozac helps.
Totally.
No, but really, what do you tell artists when they feel so overwhelmed by everything?
Um, and it's something I tell myself, slow down and do one small thing at a time. It's, this goes for every aspect. Sometimes I get paralyzed because I have to-do lists. I have, my calendar. I have things all over the place. And it's like right now, the brewery art walk is what I'm working towards. And it's like, what do I do first? I could, and I have tons of to-do lists, and so traditionally, we've learned to prioritize, but
Mm-hmm.
even that is overwhelming. So I've just learned one step at a time, one day at a time, and I know from other places I've learned that. And I've taken it further, like one thing at a time. Like, I hate washing dishes. But if anybody knows me, they know I hate washing dishes. And it's just me. I don't use that many dishes. I don't have a dishwasher, but I have a washer and dryer, thankfully. But I don't have a dishwasher. And so, sometimes it's just I'm like, okay, wait, what about just taking this fork, or taking this bowl that I ate lunch in to the kitchen, putting it in the sink in soapy water? It's like, I don't have to do the dishes. I can like do one small
One
thing,
thing.
which normally leads to bigger things.
Yeah.
And so, I am learning that for myself. And a lot of what I teach my artists and share with my artists, I hear in therapy. So, I mean, and it helps. I mean, it's so,
It helps for
yeah.
sure. I teach, pull up my project. I work with students who are both in their BAs and MAs, and I always connect my computer to put up my projector, and then I turn off my spreadsheets. Like I turn off all of my Word documents, and I always tell them, I feel like I should just scrap the lecture and we should look at the spreadsheets because spreadsheets are gonna save your life as an artist. And I feel like artists are not aware of sometimes, I mean, the more experienced ones, I feel like they do, but the power of the to-do list
Yeah.
and having like a good spreadsheet to develop a system that works for you, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
And I think you don't always get that training of how do you do that every day when you're in art school. Like it's
No,
something that you kind of need to figure out for yourself. And that I think is part of what makes this overwhelming.
exactly. I love that. That may be a title of a new Substack article. How to do the
You got it. Yes.
um,
I love me a
yeah.
to-do list. I've so I'm not a visual artist, right? I'm um puppet leader and I'm a scholar, and if anything my practice is writing. And like I developed a method that works for me. I have beginning of the week, I do a to-do list. It has to be handwritten. One specific pen. Kristine, I'm not gonna lie. There's only one specific pen that works for me. Where is
This
it?
is my pen.
This is my pen.
Yep.
I have like nothing else works. Yes, same Z's. And then I have my blue marker, and nothing gives me joy on my work day than marking things up. Like, look at the page. Like, by the end of the week, I want to see that page full of blue highlights. That's
Yep. I have yellow highlights.
There you go. There you go. Wait. No, for real. This is me. This is like last week. I had some really big tasks that I knew will come with me to this week, and I'm working through them, and amazing things will happen at the end. But yeah, one task at a time.
Yep.
But I want to also bring this conversation into the realms of this are facing now with AI.
Yeah.
You may have heard about it. AI.
What?
Amazing interiors.
Yeah. I like
And
that.
yeah, you got it. That's what it can be moving forward. And how do we frame, like, in addition to the general sense of overwhelmness, and how do we sustain our practice for the long haul and realizing that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon? Wait, I have more cliches in me. We frame all of those conversations at this moment. Like, how does AI and its impact play into the conversations that you're having with artists now and what you're hearing from artists?
Great question. And just a little plug. It's not scheduled yet, but I'm going to be on a panel for AI in November. So I don't know where
add a link to. Oh, okay. So I will not add a link. Okay.
she's Chagane is putting the panel together and working on it, and so this week. So um and it took me a long time to even consider AI. My master's thesis was on using a virtual world, using an avatar, like, getting into Oculus and, all of that. And I just, I didn't want to try. I don't have an Echo or an Alexis or I don't use Siri or, I don't use any of that. And part of it is I don't have the bandwidth. I just like to learn all of that. And, kind of like what you were saying, I live in the artist world, in the artist mind, where it's like I focus on that. It's like I'll go and visit my brother in Arizona, and he's like, he has a family and he works an 8 to 5 job, and, they have an Alexa, and, it's like, they have a normal life. I mean, whatever that is. Um, but I've it AI. I mean, AI is complicated. The and the way I think about things, I'm the type of person who I try to see all sides of everything. I try to some things. We're not going to go to those places, but it's most things I try to think logically. I try to, about why, I research everything like headlines because it's like you don't know what's true, what's real anymore.
Yeah.
And so, when it comes to like AI, I mean, of course, I didn't want to use it because of all the resources that it uses, because of, where they're building the factories near marginalized communities and how it is like ruining the water. And, I mean, there's so many different reasons not to use it. But also it's everywhere now,
Yeah.
and it's going to continue to be everywhere. And so I was just talking to somebody recently, and we were talking about it in terms of you almost can't get away from it. So it's better to learn how to use it correctly and ethically and morally and all of that. And so, it's kind of like Photoshop. I mean, it is a tool. Everything I did see, like it was in the New York Times or what, or Washington Post or something. There was like a graph that showed how much resources different things used, like
Mhm.
Amazon and Netflix, compared to AI. And it wasn't that different. It wasn't, I mean, it is different. I think it's just with everything going on in the world, politics and all of that. AI is like, one of those things that everybody's scared of. And I even am. I mean, I saw Terminator. I mean, I saw The Matrix. I saw all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's not take that red pill. Yeah, um,
Yeah.
for sure. But I do hear your point that, and that is something that I've been talking a lot about with artists, that in some ways, when every Google search that you do utilizes AI, and everything that you do on Photoshop asks you, wait, but do you want to do AI? But maybe we'll do AI. Would you want to do AI now? Maybe now. How about now?
Yep.
There's can't isolate yourself. I mean, for all the right reasons, right? Not to mention the fact that generative AI has that realm of the business world had not yet recognized how it uses copyrighted materials, how they're basically stealing materials from artists, right? So
Yeah.
you have that perspective as well. Um, but at the same time, you can't just close your eyes and wish it go away. And if you don't know how to use it, you're gonna get left behind. Or at the very least, you won't be able to promote ethical and moral uses of the system,
Yeah. Yeah.
which will
Very.
be important in moving. And you mentioned Photoshop um, in your response as well. And I think that's really key reference point, because it was only after a few years of extreme Photoshop retouch on all the images in all media
Yeah.
that gained enough knowledge as like the larger population, the voices of dissent came up and were like, no, 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 no. You're not going to retouch us into this perfect human that does not exist. And actors that started saying, I'm thinking about Kate Winslet and actresses of that caliber that were like,
Yes.
no, 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 no. We're not doing that anymore. If we only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Voices are not there to demand change, then it's only going to get worse.
Exactly. Exactly. It's I mean, I'm not a fan of a lot of AI art. I don't
Mm.
use AI in my art. Um, I know several artists like Nicole Hebron, has
Mm.
been using a lot of AI, but I mean her work is original and unique, and it's focused on like what it's specific to her. So, in that case, I feel like it is a tool,
Mhm.
just like Photoshop, artists who use Photoshop, photographers who use Lightroom, it's like if you use it that way as a tool, if you really learn how to use AI, as a tool in your art, I think there can be something about that. In fact, yesterday there was a video that went around, and I question every video now. People have
You should.
I know. People have been sharing the videos of the raccoons on the trampoline. I don't know if you've seen that. It's really cute, but it's like they're all in sync, like jumping, playing on this trampoline. And it's like, no, that can't be real. And then they jump to another trampoline. It's like,
No,
no.
no,
The
no.
people
The
share
raccoons are good. They're not. We're
I
the
know.
species. They're good. They're not that good.
Yeah, people share it as if it was real. And that's the thing. That's the thing that scares me is that I feel like everything that is AI should have like an AI tag, should have, that way you can tell the difference. And I can say, oh, that's cute. Somebody created this video using AI. Okay, I get it. But I don't want to be fooled into thinking it's AI.
Yeah.
Tell me it's AI, that's one thing, but I don't want to be fooled.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know?
And that is something that um find us of the early days of YouTube, where it was just like a free for all and you could upload whatever you wanted. It's only after other big companies started demanding copyright for creators that the model had changed. I think Kara Swisher talks about this brilliantly when she says, we've done it once, model is there. Gen AI companies need to do is just to decide that that is what they're doing and organize the model so that the stealing would stop.
Yeah.
Stop the steal. Um, that's the change that needs to happen. Um, it won't take all of the issues away from
Yeah.
AI usage,
Yeah.
but it'll be a good start.
Yeah. Absolutely. There were a couple of I think there was I don't know if you said his name because you kind of went out. Tristan Harris, is that what you said? Or the name that you just mentioned? I can't think of his name, but there was somebody that was just on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart last week talking about AI. Fascinating. It was like a 20-minute talk. It was really fascinating. And then the oatmeal. I don't know if you're familiar with the comic The Oatmeal. They
Yeah.
just did this long thread about AI
Mm-hmm.
that made a lot of sense. And so yeah, I'm keeping an eye out on a lot of that stuff. It scares a lot of people, and but I just I'm like, what are we gonna do? you know
Yeah.
like I mean, and then we could say that for everything, so we just have to do what we do. um I have been using I use Claude,
Mm-hmm.
which is through Anthropic. I call him my boyfriend. so um and I will say, it has changed my life this last year.
In
Um,
what way?
I have I have tons of ideas. I have, I tell my therapist I feel like there's lotto balls, dodging around in my head all over the place.
Mhm.
And, and I write them down. I have stickies, I have notes all over the place. I have notes on my phone when I'm
Mm,
driving. I like all over the place. I never have the time to sort them, to organize them,
mm,
to put them into thoughts. And so now, like, what I'm doing is I'm transcribing. I'm doing doing a voice recorder and transcribing it. And I put it into Claude and I say, can you put this into a cohesive, format and, check for grammar and all of that. And it's my voice, it's my words, it's my copy editor. And,
yeah.
because it's just me. And it's like, with everything I do, it's something that I don't have time to do, but I want to. I've been loving writing and loving sharing, like, my thoughts on different things. And it's
Mhm.
because, like, I can say it. And I have like some ADHD tendencies and I deal with some anxiety and depression and stuff. And so, I don't have bandwidth to do all of the things I want to do. And like writing, I've always been insecure about, even though a lot of people have told me like throughout the years that I'm a good writer. But I was always insecure about it. So now, like, I can, like I said, stream of consciousness talk about whatever it is. And it just puts it into like an order, puts it into a list. I've taken like notes from the past, like all of the workshops that I've done, whether it was on social media or like all of my notes from art history or I bring those together and put those in Claude. And so it takes from my information from my past and it's just it's helped so much in that way. It,
Yeah.
coordinating things and um so yeah, I just feel
Yeah.
like in that way it's pretty good.
And I would like going back to where we started, when artists get overwhelmed,
Yes.
so because of the fact that it's a one person's business, right? Like
Yep.
they are the treasurer, the HR, the ED, the social media marketing communications team, the PR folks, like all of it in one person. So if we could utilize, I mean, if it's already there, utilize it in a way that will help us to figure out how to use it, but then also make it work for us. Maybe it's a good path forward.
Exactly. And I think it is how you use it. And I think like a couple people are like, you're the perfect person to use it because you're good at um like putting things together and figuring things out and
Yeah.
in that way where a lot of people don't know how. I mean, don't know the right way to use AI or any of that. So, I mean, I'm learning to use it ethically. I mean, especially for people with disabilities, I think it's a
Mhm.
game changer. For many, like the medical field, Monica, who's one of my clients, just got a hearing aid the last couple of months that uses AI. I
Mhm.
mean, it's like if you can use it for that, um, to cure cancer, you
Yeah.
know?
Just don't let it emails and give you responses to people in conversations. Just
Yeah.
keep on using that side of your brain,
Yes.
and then it can't beat us because
Yeah.
we need to keep those circuits in our brain running.
Absolutely. I feel like, and I hear that a lot. I feel like for me, it has helped me think more and think critically more because of how much I'm talking and how much I'm transcribing the thoughts in my head to this. So I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's definitely helped me with that. Then we need to get the thoughts out of our head.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, please. Let's get all the thoughts out of our head forever. Um, question about that before I let you go. How do you think that AI changes artist relationships with gatekeepers and institutions in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, because the relationships are formed in person. I mean, I think I talk to my artists all the time, and I always tell this story. When I first started Shoebox, it'll be 12 years in January. Um, I took Shayna to lunch, Shayna and East Ambrot. And for 2 hours, we had a great lunch and we really connected. And the one thing I remember from that lunch, I mean, she gave me tons of great stuff that I'm sure I used at the time. But the one thing I still remember is she said that she walks out the door and gets work. You have to show up. And I tell my artists this, you have to show up. Especially in person. And,
Mhm.
which is hard. I mean, I dealt with cancer a couple years ago. I get exhausted. I have an eating disorder, like I said, a little bit of anxiety and depression. And so I get exhausted really easily and I have a hard time like, I stand on concrete so much that my legs are sore. And so
Yeah.
I want to go to everything and I can't. And so, but it depends on where you are in your career and what you want to do. And creating the work is the most important thing. That's the other thing I tell my artists. But but I know artists who go to like galleries and see art and end up talking to the people at the front desk and show their work and get a show. It's like, or they go to an artist talk and meet another artist that they're sitting next to and they end up collaborating or they end up becoming
That's
friends.
my
Down the
favorite.
line things happen.
Yeah.
It's and I think the how do I want to say it? I don't want to say it that way, but the smart person, knows that what needs that personal contact,
Yeah.
needs, that in-person contact. And, and we know it, even, I talk to my artists, we can see art all the time on the screen, but we know it's a totally different experience to see it in person. Same thing with AI. It will help us in some ways, and maybe it'll help us get our point across in different ways,
Mm.
whatever that looks like. I use it also for accessibility. I struggle with, I want to make sure my posts are easy to read. And so I like have a prompt. Can you redo this post and make it so it's accessible, with
Mhm.
bullet points? And that way, yeah, it's easy for people to read. And so whether that is for gatekeepers or whether that's just for everybody,
Mhm.
I think it can help artists in that sense. Even, putting in their thoughts about their art and getting inspiration or I don't know. Um, but again, you still need that in-person connection no matter what. Whoever you are talking to, whatever relationships you want to form, in person
Yeah.
is still the most important thing.
Yeah, and choose it wisely too, right? Because we all get overwhelmed with like living in a place like LA. There's no way that you can like just this Thursday, I got invitations for like at least three lovely events that I would like to attend, but I can't because I have an event.
Exactly.
That's how it
Exactly.
works. So kind of choose wisely, show up for your community and show up for people that you really want to support what they do, but also make sure to be present in different spaces. Find
Yeah.
opportunities to kind of introduce yourself to new worlds. That always helps.
Exactly. And that's another post that I've done. The guilt of not being able to be everywhere.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
oh my gosh. It's like it's beyond FOMO. It's not even
Yes.
FOMO. It's just
No.
like I want to be there for everybody,
Yep.
but I can't. Traffic would not allow me to get there.
Every
I want.
time, like, Galia, every time they have an event at Arts at Blue Roof, I mean, I adore what she does. I want to get involved. And it's like, I don't have the bandwidth.
And just to make sure that we say it, Blue Roof is a beautiful program in South LA that has the project room and residency spaces for women artists, um, allowing them to have a space outside of their homes to work in and find community. And it's an amazing program, and the spaces are gorgeous. But yeah, it gets hard. Oh, and Shanna Dunbroad, we should also note, I haven't mentioned that earlier. She's a beloved arts writer in LA who's also a curator, and like I am not surprised that she told you that every time she leaves the house, she gets a job because she is known and beloved by many because she does show up all over.
And, just one last thing, thinking, about the idea of artists and even people in the art world being resilient and pivoting. She left LA Weekly and started 13 Things LA.
Yeah.
It's like, and she did it for artists. She did it because there isn't that much, art writing out there. That's why I started Art and Cake,
Yeah.
because we still need those voices out there. And so, yeah, it's amazing what she does.
Absolutely. I'm going to put links to all of those things in the post itself. And Kristine, this is such a pleasure to be able to talk to you in this way about all the amazing things that you do and help artists accomplish in their careers. Your Substack is such a gift. And I'm gonna include a link to that as well. And I hope to see you soon, IRL, to use a term from the early 21st century. No foul or guilt. No, 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 no. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.